Hi, welcome back to my channel. This is not very good lighting. There's a ton of thunder going on. That explains the horrible lighting. I'm in the homeschool room, aka the garage. And honestly, have I been listening to something or not? I don't know. I'll let you figure that out. Honestly, I don't know that I was planning on making a video like this until Chantal made me do it. That's what I'm gonna say happened. Chantal is over at Intentional Living, and I don't know, I like make videos in response to something she puts out just to kind of like have this conversation, and it makes fun. And if you enjoy it, that's great. If not, that's great too. It's just a conversation, right? But it also is going to be a little bit of a review. I'm actually going to share my library haul and why we have this. Oh, and by the way, we have like a huge cricket invasion. There's crickets everywhere. There's hundreds of crickets everywhere. It's going to sound like it's nighttime, but it's not. There's just hundreds of crickets, and they get into the garage. And so they're like my background music for y'all. Anyway, moving on. So, Chantal over at Intentional Life, I think is what she is. She talked about how her library creates like, well, let me get this right. The library like says at the bottom of her library receipt shows her how much money she has saved by checking books out of the library. And typically when I'm like, oh, before I buy this book, let me go online and check and see if my library has it. Most of the time it's not that. But I have hundreds of books in my Amazon cart. It's kind of like I click it as a save for later, and then it just kind of basically I can scroll through that and check it all out, and there comes the rain. And all that stuff. So I don't normally go and buy books from that. I just kind of save it as, hey, one day I would like to buy this. If I'm in a secondhand bookstore, I can just scroll through that and check them all out. Anyway, all that to say, one night I got really stressed out, and I went through all 300 plus books in my Amazon cart and just put every single title in my current library book system. And I ended up with 29 books. Some of those are audible or audio that the Libby app has, and finally I was able to use my sister's library card to get back on Hoopla, because my library card has expired to the one in my hometown, and they don't have Hoopla up here, and Hoopla has a lot more books I'm interested in than the Libby app. So let's just say right now I only have like 2 weeks to do these audiobooks, and I've been like putting all my energy into physical copies, and I really need to get on those audiobooks. Anyway, all that to say, 29 books that just got deleted off Amazon wish list, and I saved about $300, I think is what I calculated. That's like crazy to me, because even if I got all of those secondhand, I still saved like $30 if I was able to find them all, which, let's be honest, that's not true. The first ones I'm going to talk about that I got from the library are actually ones that I have read. And I need to kind of preface this because today is September 7th, I believe. So 1 week into September, Johnny, you really do need to try to be quiet. 1 week into September, but there's 1 week out of every month that is crappy for me. And it was supposed to be the week that we have off school. Just the last couple of weeks, I feel like everybody's following me. Let's just say like this past month has been super stressful, so now my whole body is messed up. And so I wasn't academically prepared to take this week off, and so we had a lighter school week, but I did a lot more reading, and so I've already read 5 books in the month of September, and I only have these books for like 3 weeks. And so I put off all of the TBR books that I was going to read and just focused on this. Now I have talked so long already on this, and I just need to kind of get into it. I'm going to start with this one, and I actually have 2 more inside. These are the Amherst mysteries by Gail. So there's Caught in the Middle, Caught in the Act, and Caught in a Bind. And I really like her. These books I reread so many times as a teen, and believe it or not, I did not remember who done it and why, which is crazy to me. I can tell you, I probably reread these like 6 times as a teen. But anyway, and so rereading this now as an adult who has definitely had a lot more growth in her reading years, I felt like it was now, especially after I recommended it to somebody, I was like, you know, I haven't read this in a long time and I have grown as a reader. I should reread these before I keep recommending them. And I loved it. It was, how I described it was, it's like a cup of tea in the middle of a stressful day. It's just kind of a lighthearted read. It's nothing profound. It's nothing amazing. It's just a fun, lighthearted read. And definitely enjoyed it. I still laugh so much over, what is his name? Now I can't even remember his name. It's not Andy. Kurt. I still laugh over Kurt and just the kind of character he is. It's just, he's one of those that just makes me laugh. I think because he just reminds me of my dad. It just reminds me so much of my dad. Anyway, I loved it. And I'm on to the second one, and I'll just reread all of these. And again, it's just kind of one of those lighthearted ones. Definitely clean Christian mystery. I didn't really see so much romance, but I did. It was interesting in that because I recommended this as, well, there's 3 books and there really isn't a lot of romance, but I missed the whole story in here. Like, one of the reasons she leaves her hometown and decides to like break out on her own is after she's just kind of remained stagnant forever with her boyfriend and just decides, you know what, I'm not going to wait forever. I need to grow closer to God. I need to all of these things. And then she kind of just has a little, it is a, I'm going to call it, I'll call it a spade. It is kind of a romance between Kurt. But it's a slow opening petal, not this deep, intense. Like, they have more of a bantering back and forth with, okay, it's a little Elizabeth and Darcy, you know, the bantering back and forth, but there's something there. And so, anyway, at the end of the book, something happens. And it's a cliffhanger. And that's what the second book is going to bring in. And so, now we're on to love triangles, and I'm like, oh, I actually hate love triangles. Anyway, moving on. I want to talk about that one in just a little bit, but this other one I read is All Alone in the Universe by Lynn Perkins. I gave it 2 stars. It was okay. This is labeled grade 6 through 8, so it's actually labeled higher than what I would have assumed it to be. I would have assumed this was a more middle grade, lower grade, maybe grades 4 to 6, 3 to 6, just because of how immature the main character is. Because it's told from a first-person perspective, you see her thoughts and feelings over her and her best friend now having another person in the picture, and how she is just adamantly against it. Like, I want my own friend. Why do I have to share her? Why do we have to share these experiences? And I hate things like that. Genuinely hate them. I don't understand why it just has to be this thing. Did that happen growing up? Yes. Thankfully, I had a mom that was like, why does it have to be just 2? Why can't you all 3 be friends? Like, there's a little bit of each of you that is bringing something to the pot. Why does it have to be just a twosome? So I know some people are going to disagree with me. One thing I loved about this was the illustrations throughout it. The author illustrated it, and there are some really fun ones to see. So here is her drawing a paisley shirt. There was one where she's like looking at her split ends that I was like, wow, that's pretty impressive. There's just little illustrations of her life, and each chapter tells about a different month. So that was kind of a unique perspective on this. And again, it's all told through first person perspective. I thought that was a really neat drawing. But again, the whole premise is her trying to get over the fact that now she's alone in the universe. She doesn't have a friend because she has chosen to walk away from that friendship because she can't have her all to herself. And then there is a neighbor next door who everybody kind of gossips about because the yard's not kept nice and clean. There's kids. Mom and Dad are always fighting. They have this neighborhood party and there's no food in the fridge. There's only beer and Coke in the fridge. And like, really, what is going on with this family and blah, 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 blah. Okay. Now you get my whole feeling about this. Because it was there. It wasn't like I disliked it. There is a couple of words in there. There's a couple of bad words in there. Which again, I was like middle grade. But this is also printed in 1999. So, but still, I'm just like, ugh. There's so many books out there, and I'm not gonna pull this one from a library shelf of all the really good ones that we want to read and say, oh my gosh, there's nothing else to read, just read this one. Moving on. I want to talk about these, like, save the best for last, right? And then we'll go into all the books that I got. And I need to get these back to the library because I have some more waiting for me. Anyway, this is the Tillerman family series, and they are by Cynthia Voigt. And Homecoming is the first one. And this was a nominated American Award book, I believe. Homecoming by Cynthia Voigt. And the premise of the story is 4 children make a journey across hundreds of miles to get to their great aunt. And when I started reading this is copyright 1981. In 1988, Feature Family Films came out with a movie called On My Own. Does anybody remember this? And it's about 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls, that escape the foster system and go and find Jack. And when I was reading this, I had all of those memories of watching On My Own, which we only watched it a few times. And I was like, wait a minute, I wonder if Feature Family Films kind of took the basis of this book to create that story. But anyway, and I don't even remember On My Own anymore. I just remember the 4 kids escaping and walking across the miles to try to find Uncle Jack. That's all I remember. In this one, Mom is going to take them to Great Aunt Edna, or whatever it is. Ellie, and I have no idea. Great Aunt Scylla. And she gets to a mall parking lot, and then she disappears. And the kids wait for her, and they wait for her. There's food, there's clothes. And they're like, I don't know what's going on. And they're like, well, if we go to the police, Mom might already be there. She's kind of a little bit, actually, that was something that's actually important that I forgot. Mom keeps forgetting things. And so they are assuming Mom has already gone to Great Aunt Edna and just forgot that she had to take the kids with her because their mom is just declining mentally. And so they decide, well, rather than getting Mom in trouble or dealing with the police, they're just going to walk across the miles and get there. And like the whole premise of the story is like, well, why do you like this so much, Lise? Because that doesn't sound like you. No, it doesn't. But what made it so interesting is Dicey, the oldest girl in here, the oldest one of the family, and all of her ingenious ways to provide food provide food and shelter and keep these kids walking the miles and miles they have to travel. And you know what? I say it's hundreds of miles, but I don't remember if it's actually that much. It just feels like it because of how many miles these younger kids have to walk. And so, let's see. She keeps to her moral convictions in this book and tries so hard to use those and create and just be able to provide food for the children, and all of her just pressures that she's dealing with. Again, not the kind of thing I would like, but it was like a survivor story for the 1980s, and it was just so intriguing. It was My Side of the Mountain retold with 4 children trying to get to Great Aunt Scylla. And when they get to Great Aunt Scylla, she is dead, but the Scylla's daughter, so it would be their great aunt. Oh my gosh, what is it? The aunt is there. She's not used to children. She was going to be a nun. And so she's dealing with the youngest daughter, who is kind of this beautiful, beautiful daughter, but she's not quite all there. They don't know what's wrong. They don't know why. She's intelligent. She can hold great conversations, but she can't get her reading in, and she can't do the academics. And so the schools think that she's mentally going downhill like the mom. And then there is kind of your troublemaker boy, which reminded me so much of my son. It was so funny. And then then there's another boy. He's just very intellectually bright. He's like the poster child for everyone. And then there's just Dicey, who's just trying to hold the whole family together. And all of this is on her 12-year-old shoulders. And so, you know, they're not in this great environment with this aunt who has like these really strict rules just to kind of keep them out of trouble and keep them busy and all those things. So they decide to go and try to find their grandma, which they have never heard of. And so they go to try to find their grandma. And how that even happened is a little forgiving to the story. It's not like they just packed up, sneaked out one day. Like, there's a little backstory to that. So, again, it was just easier for me to forgive it. But I loved this. There's a scene in here that I just stood up and started applauding. I was like, yes, somebody understands. And it's, you know, they're in desperate times. They're hungry. Like, they eat bananas and peanut butter sandwiches and maybe milk if they can manage that much. Sometimes it's just a piece of bread or, you know, something, maybe a little bit of an apple that sustains them for all this long journeys that they're doing. And at one point, a boy, one of the siblings, steals some money because he's like, well, all they have to do is just go to the ATM machine and get some more out. Like, we're in dire circumstances here. And this sister is about ready to fall apart. And the ones they stole from turns around and says, is that the kind of man you want to be? Like, are you going to be okay going to bed at night and waking up and being okay, but this is the kind of person you've resorted to? He's like, yeah, you're right. This is what we could do, but this doesn't just harm us. This is going to harm you. And I was like, yes, yes, yes. I'm so tired of books excusing wrong behavior because of circumstances. Right is right is right is right, no matter what it is. Wrong is wrong is wrong, no matter what your circumstances are. Oh, I love this book. It has so many things that I really liked. And then it goes into the second book, which is Dicey's Song. This won the Newbery Medal. And I think that's actually why I got this one. Again, I'm trying to read all the Newbery, and so I had this on my cart and realized it was the second in the series, so I read the first one. Love the first one. Don't understand why the second one won the Newbery and not the first one. So, second one is basically the recovery from all of the trauma that they experienced and where they're living, and now she's having to relinquish authority and just trying to figure out that balance of she's growing into a woman, and there is a physical elements in here discussed about. So she's growing into a woman. She's trying to figure out the balance of how much authority does she have, how much does she relinquish, how much does she let the person that they are now under have a say in discipline, instruction. And she's like, you don't understand the backstory. Yes, you know, what my brother did was wrong, but you can't send him to bed without supper until you know what it's like to go to bed without supper. Like, it is devastating. And there's just things in here that, honestly, it would affect me in the sense that, like, this is who you're talking about in an authority figure. But they also the author also points out how she tries to be very respectful in showing this point of view in that. So I thought it was really good. It was a 3-star read for me. This was a 4-star. I know it probably should have been a 5-star. And I don't know why I didn't give it a 5, but it just wasn't quite there for a 5 for me. It wasn't just, there was just parts in there that I really liked, and there was an intriguing story that I really enjoyed. And then this one, again, just so many changes happening within school. Like, some of the children are struggling as being students in the school, of trying to help their younger sister knowing that she's bright and then just trying to fight that stigma of you don't fit all of these boxes, you don't ace all of these tests, therefore you're struggling and all this kind of thing. You have your very bright student who just, he knows he's bright and it's a struggle for him. He knows he's very intelligent and he just wants friends more than smartness. And so some of his struggles and some of Dicey's struggles of just expectations and what she has dealt with and not really being able to heal from all of that and how that begins to affect her. And then this other boy who, the little troublemaker who actually isn't causing any trouble right now, and that's actually more concerning to the oldest sister and the guardian, because they're like, he is a troublemaker, why is he so uptight about not causing trouble? So it was a really good book. I just didn't understand why that one got the Newbery and not this one, and I know it has to do with what came out during the years, and this one was on the America Book Literature Award list. It was nominated, but it was just, anyway. And then there's this one, which honestly at first really annoyed me because this is about a character that you see in the second book, and this is his story. And I was like, well, that doesn't really fit into, that doesn't really fit the family and their, oh my gosh, this one's really loud. Oh, they're mating. Awkward. It's just not them, so you can't really call it the third book in this series when it actually is more like a companion book. And then I read this little blip down here at the bottom, which does say, it's a moving journey. It's a companion book, not a sequel to the second book. Whoops, sorry. It's like, okay, you're forgiven. Like, it is the people who label things problem. I can deal with that. Okay. Because it isn't. It's a companion. It's about his story. In his story, if you have never seen Secondhand Lions, then maybe you could watch it and then you would understand a lot of this, but which actually has some language in it, but it's funny. It's a pretty funny story. This is a Secondhand Lions retelling, or Secondhand Lions based their movie off of this. Because, so, the boy in here, he has a mom that you just want to strangle, and I kind of wonder what happened with this author growing up where the moms are just blah. You know, one has mental breakdown and this one is just, you love to hate her. And I love fiction in that way because they're not real characters, so I can hate them because I hate her. She's manipulative, she's evil, it's all about her selfishness, and she turns it all into you are destroying me kind of mentality. And this poor little boy just wants his mother's love. He sees her as so beautiful, and he calls his dad the professor. He doesn't even call him dad because of this picture his mom has painted. And at first, the picture seems accurate. The mom just, and then the relationship with the dad and the son is pretty strained. They're more like strangers or roommates living in a house. There's no relationship status here really. And then somebody comes into their life that basically shows how unhealthy they are living, not just in a physical way, but in a relationship way. And so it's, again, it was okay. It was like a 3-star read for me because more of his growth and where he, when we met him in this one, kind of how he got to that point. And so he does have an interesting story. But again, I definitely would say it is more of a companion story and a standalone story. And you get, at the end, you get more of Jeff and Dicey, as Jeff is the main character. You get more of their growth and relationship. But I don't remember any kissing. I don't remember any, there's no language that I can remember in those books. And they were just okay. Like, the other ones I enjoyed. I liked them, but they weren't like as amazing as the first one. So anyway, those are those books. Now let's just kind of go into some of these other ones here. Here that I have. Gosh. I would do that. That I have here. So we're just going to kind of start. So this one is Incident at Hawks Hill by Alan Eckert, and it is about a boy and a skunk. And I picked this one up. It won a Newbery, but the premise of it reminded me so much of my own son. So Ben is not an ordinary 6-year-old boy. He was much too small for his age, and he seemed to get along better with animals than with people. None of the people in North Corners knew quite what to make of him. Then one June day in 1870, Ben wanders away from his home on Hawks Hill and disappears without a trace in the waving prairie grass. How has this shy, lonely boy survived most of the summer in the wilds by forging a bond with a female badger is a poignant story of human courage and change. The sound is so much like my Ben. So I picked that up. I guess I have a survival theme going on here, which makes sense because my boys love survival. This one is Nowhere Boy by Catherine Marsh. I'm going to have all of the glare. Ahmed realized what he was thinking, but he pushed the idea away. Somebody would find him. He would be arrested for breaking into the house, but the idea wouldn't leave him. He had no money, no phone. He had nothing, just a fake passport and a watch, not even a bus fare to get back to the refugee camp at Park Maximilian. He swallowed and felt the pain of swollen glands. There was a bathroom outside for water and waste, and even an alcove in the wall beneath the little window that was just big enough to hide if anyone came. What if he stayed here for a night or two? And so I think it's just, this refugee boy and trying to survive. It looked amazing. And again, going through my Amazon cart and seeing if okay, moving on. Crisscross by the gal that wrote this one. I should have read this one first because now my expectations are so low. But this one, the Newbery. This one has, I honestly don't know anything or can tell you anything. There's nothing here for me to... Summary. Teenagers in a small town experience new thoughts and feelings, questions their identities, interconnect as they search for the meaning of life and love. It's on here because it's a Newbery. Copyright 2005. My expectations are low. Some Kind of Courage by Dan somebody or another, Gamahart. Settle for a life-defining, death-defying adventure. I remember, yes. Okay. Joseph Johnson has lost just about everyone he ever loved. He lost his pa in an accident, he lost his ma and his little sister to sickness, and now he's lost his pony, fast, furious, beautiful Sarah, taken away by a man who had no right to take her. Joseph can sure enough get her back, though. The odds are stacked against him, but he isn't about to give up. He will face down deadly animals, dangerous men, and the fury of nature itself on his quest to be reunited with the only family he has left. Because Joseph Johnson may have lost just about everything, but he hasn't lost hope. And he hasn't lost the fire in his belly that says he's getting his Sarah back no matter what. So, yeah. I think I heard that on, or read this, or heard about this. I heard a review about this on a booktube, and I can't remember who did it, and they were talking about how funny it was, and so okay, one reason why. The Night Journey by Karen Lasky. I'm trying to remember what of hers I have read, because she sounds so familiar. But this is a Jewish... Copyright 1943, but I don't think it won a Newbery. It was a time when Jews were forced to serve in the Tsar's army or be murdered in pogroms? I don't know what that is. It's a time when 9-year-old Sashi devised a wonderful plan for her family to escape. That's all I can tell you about that one. This one has also been on my thing forever. This is They Were Strong and Good, Robert Lawson. This is the Caldecott winner, and this one, very, very basic biographies. I just wanted to read it, and it has a ton of pictures, so not much. I was disappointed, I'll be honest, when I got this, because I'm like, well, this doesn't share much. So I think it's kind of like a first biography book. So that was that. Under a Painted Sky, Two Girls Hidden in Plain Sight, One Daring Journey to Freedom by Stacey Lee, Missouri, 1849. Samantha dreams of moving back to New York to be a professional musician, not an easy thing if you're a girl, and harder still if you're Chinese. But tragic accident dashes any hope of fulfilling her dreams and instead leaves her fearing for her life. With the help of a runaway slave named Anna May, Samantha flees town for the unknown frontier. Life on the Oregon Trail is unsafe for two girls, so they disguise themselves as Sammy and Andy. Two boys headed for the California gold rush. Sammy and Andy forge a powerful bond as they each search for a link to their past in a struggle to avoid any unwanted attention. So, Chinese girl, runaway slave, try to make a new life for themselves by disguising themselves as boys. That sounds interesting. Okay, Mockingbird, which my daughter's like, I think I read that. This is by Catherine Erskine. In Caitlin's world, everything is black and white. Anything in between is confusing. That's the stuff her brother Devon always explained. But now Devon is dead and her father cries a lot and she wants to help her dad and herself. But as a 10-year-old girl with Asperger's syndrome, she doesn't know how. So I'm trying to find more books like this to read. This won the National Book Award. And then The Simple Art of Flying. This is by Corey Leonardo. And somebody else talked about this. I am terrible at remembering who talks about what. I just watch them, enjoy them, and put things that I want to read more. Or from them that they have talked about that I want to read. Emily from Arc Schooling had a subscription box, and the second month was birds. Like, that was his theme, and there was Zeno and Alia, The Adventures of Zeno and Alia, and it was an African parrot and a girl dying of cancer, and it was kind of that story, and we loved it. And this one is also about an African parrot. Born in a dismal room in a pet store, Alistair, the African gray parrot, dreams of escape to bluer skies. He'd like nothing more than to fly away to a palm tree with his beloved sister Aggie, but when Aggie is purchased by 12-year-old Fritz, and Alistair is adopted by elderly dance enthusiast and pie baker Albertina Plotke, the future looks ready to crash land. In between anxious plucking his feathers, eating a few books, and finding his own poetic voice, Alistair plots his way to a family reunion. But soon he's forced to choose between the life he's always dreamed of and admitting the truth, that sometimes the bravest adventure is in letting go. That sounds really interesting. And then the last two, this one is 12 Days in May, Freedom Ride, 1961, and heard many good things about it and just kind of wanted to read it for myself. This is about the activists, and this is kind of told through pictures and I think newspaper clippings too, different documents, there's some drawings. So that's all I can tell you about that. And likewise, I had a book in Amazon. It's called 1491 and 1493, written by this author, Charles Mann. But I've heard a couple of people rave about it. And again, I want to read it. I want to see what the narrative is. And then my library didn't have those, but they had this one, which is the children's version of 1491. And this is before Columbus, the Americas of 1491. There's that, that's all I can really say. So that's pretty much that library haul and a little bit of a book review. And we'll see what we think. Like, some of these I do not have high hopes for. I know some of these I was like, okay, well, I'm really glad that my library had them so that, you know, I got to read them before putting money out for them. But anyway, I found one more book under my chair. This one is The Bridge Home by Padma. I'll let you guys pronounce that. Okay. Life is tough on teeming streets of Chennai, India, as runaway sisters Viji and Ruku quickly discover. For cautious-minded Viji, this is not a surprise, but she hasn't realized just how vulnerable she and her sister would actually feel in this uncaring, dangerous world. Fortunately, the girls find shelter and friendship on an abandoned bridge That's also the hideout of Musi and Arul, 2 homeless boys. The 4 of them soon form a family of sorts, sharing food and supplies, laughing together about the absurdities of life. And while making their living scavenging the city trash heaps in the pits, kids find plenty to take pride in too. After all, they are now the bosses of themselves and are truly hoping to keep it that way. And this book is inspired by the children she met during her years in India, the author. So, that is another one that I picked up. Well, hello. I know that I have not edited and uploaded the library haul video. Can't think of the word I'm trying to say. Anyway, and because of that, I'm just actually going to tag on this short mini haul here, or mini review here, mainly because I need to get these down to the library, and I'm going to go walk down again and do that. I feel like I already said this before, but anyway, that's what I do. So I finished the Amherst mystery series. So we have Caught in the Act and Caught in the Bind. This is books 2 and 3, and then Caught in the Middle was the first one. And I read these so many times as a kid, and even as an adult. I think my favorite one as a kid was Caught in a Bind, and it's still my favorite one as an adult. Caught in the Act, kind of, it's interesting. I'm trying to remember what the first one mainly dealt with. Probably just like insecurity and growing up and things like that. And then Caught in the Act, Mary is dealing with kind of a friend who's not really a likable character. And she's a friend mainly because she's just a co-worker and gets pulled into these things. And she's just, the Jolene in here is just not a nice character. And they stumble across Jolene's husband's body on the floor, and then kind of the mystery takes off from there. Mary again is dealing with things. Her boyfriend's in here, like the previous boyfriend that she walked out on in the first book. I don't remember, but I think it's this one. Anyway. Yeah, so this one has never been like my favorite, but through adult eyes, like I suddenly can see a different perspective on this. Like having friends, let me rephrase that. Having people in your life that just aren't likable. They're not Christian. They just have no respect for your values and your beliefs and nothing of that, but you're in their lives and they're in your lives, and just trying to work through all of that. And what I really liked about this one is that Jolene, the character, comes into here, and because the circumstances in this one, things are a little bit different in this one. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. And it's hard for me, like, I want to talk about it, but it's hard because I don't want to have spoilers. But it's not really a spoiler to the mystery. So if you don't really want a spoiler, but you kind of want to hear my thoughts on this, maybe skip to this one right here and then just continue on from here. But at the end of this one, Jolene just kind of starts loosening up to Christianity. She's not there. She didn't have like this amazing conversion story, which again, that's why I love Gail Roper. She put some really good stuff in her books. I really appreciate that. So at the end, Jolene is kind of like softening up to going to church, becoming a Christian, and so on and so forth. And then in this one, you see Jolene just, you know, still being herself, but like really trying to work on it. I appreciate that. That's why I love books like this. And then Caught in the Bind is the last one. This one deals with like spousal abuse and adoption and infertility. Like some really hard topics, and they're beautiful. I just, there was so many things in here that I just loved the conversations that were made because of that. Loved it. Anyway, all that to say, I really enjoyed it. I really love them still. Maybe not like the 5-star reading that I remembered at first, or remembered as a child, but definitely just still warm, cozy feelings as I was reading it. Then I read Crisscross. This is a Newbery Medal winner by Lynn Perkins, and I've decided this author is just not for me. There was nothing to this. There was nothing to the story. A lot of this book is mainly about girls just waking up and realizing that feelings for boys existed, and then there's the reverse of that, boys realizing that they have feelings for girls, and how do they deal with that? How does this all work together? You have multiple characters in here. I can't tell you how many times I was so confused at what was going on. And there was nothing to the story. There was nothing. Yeah, I was just this our main character, which interestingly enough, I felt like our main character wasn't even our main character. She was kind of a sub main character because I learned more about Eckert. I felt like he was more of a main character than our girl, and now the names are they're already gone. I got interrupted, so they're gone. Anyway, yeah, maybe 2 stars. It was okay. Nothing here for me. I'm like, why did this win the Newbery? And this is why I'm doing all of these Newbery readings. Well, first of all, I like to have the information. So I have been asked a few times about these because people choose Newbery winners or Newbery honors because, well, they won, so they must be good, therefore, right? And I'm like, okay, let's see what came out this year in children's literature. What came out in 2005, I believe it was. I looked it up and I was like, oh, wow, it's even more, 2005. It's even more recent than I thought. Out of all the literature that came out that year, this was the best one. And then I want to go back and read why they chose these ones. So confusing. So, some really good ones. Again, I reread these because I was recommending them because they were just so much in my mind. And I was like, I probably should reread them because I've grown as a reader, but I don't know, like, especially when I get to this one, just love it. There is some Christian romance. It's kind of weaved throughout all 3 books. And there's some times when I'm just like, ugh. But you know what? I still enjoyed them. And I'm really glad that this had larger print for the size book it was because I got through it faster and I'm done with it. So that's going to be it for this. Have you read any of these? Let me know in the comments below and tell me your thoughts. And I'm going to go get busy because I have spent 40 minutes telling you all about these books and I have so much to do today. So I'm going to leave this here. Thank you for watching, and until next time, have another cup of coffee and read another chapter.